Why coming back to America feels like leaving home all over again. Nobody warns you about this part. They tell you how brave you are for leaving the United States to go find something better abroad. But nobody tells you what it feels like to come back. Nobody mentions the moment you step off the plane and realize that what once felt like home doesn't feel like home anymore. You don't feel American. You feel like a visitor in the country that gave you your passport. And in that moment, you realize something you weren't prepared to admit out loud. Leaving the US wasn't the biggest shock, coming back is. You think returning will feel like a reset, like slipping back into an old pair of shoes. But instead, it feels like trying on clothes you've outgrown. Everything is familiar, but nothing fits. The small things hit you first. The grocery store feels overwhelming. Self checkout lines feel hostile and rushed. Prices feel insulting to you. Strangers avoid eye contact. Everyone seems angry, busy, or both. It's like the country is on fast forward and you're moving in slow motion. And the strangest part is this: it's not that the US changed, it's that you did. When you lived abroad, you built a new internal clock. You learned a new pace. You picked up habits, little cultural rhythms, a new definition of normal. Maybe it was drinking coffee slowly instead of rushing with a to go cup. Maybe it was greeting strangers. Maybe it was eating real food instead of box food with barcodes. Maybe it was being around people who talk to each other instead of at each other. You return expecting those parts of you to integrate seamlessly back into your old life, but instead, they collide. You start to feel like there are two versions of you inside one body: the version the US raised and the version another country unlocked. And now, they don't know how to share the same skin. Everyone handles this return differently. So I'm going to break this down into three groups, the three camps of return shock. The first group I'm going to call the ghosts. These are the people who came back quietly. They don't talk about what they saw or learned abroad because nobody seems interested. Family changes the subject. Friends stare blankly. People say things like, wow, must have been nice. But anyway, they shrink. They go back to their job. They go back to their apartment. They fold themselves into the old version of life like origami. They learn to disappear into the background of their own story. Then we have the next group. I'm going to call them the exiles at home. These are the ones who feel like permanent visitors. They are physically back, but emotionally still somewhere else. They miss the country they left, like a missing limb. Their body is in the US, their mind is on another coast. Their soul is in the place that changed them. They try to explain what it felt like, but no words translate. So they start planning the exit again, not because they hate the US, but because they know there's a version of themselves that can't live here anymore. Now, the last group I'm going to call the hybrids. The hybrids. These are the ones trapped between worlds. They don't want to choose, they want both. They want to stitch together a life that makes sense. The opportunity of America, the humanity of abroad, the pace of a quieter culture, the ambition of home, the community they tasted elsewhere, the identity they built both in the States and abroad. They want to build a new country inside themselves. Not America, not abroad, something in between. But nobody teaches you how to live in between. This is the moment it actually hits you. The return shock isn't about culture. It's not about politics or prices or accents or pace or food. It's about identity. It's about realizing that home is not a place you return to, it's a person you become. And the real shock is when you look around and you realize you can't return to who you were and you can't fully explain who you are now. So you start living in translation, translation between cultures, translation between identities, translation between the world that shaped you and the world that changed you. Nobody warns you about that part because nobody can. Coming back makes you question everything. Was the peace abroad real or was it a fantasy? Was the stress in the US normal or was I numb to it? Did I outgrow America or did America outgrow me? Was I running from something or running towards something? And the hardest question is this: if I don't feel at home here anymore, where do I belong? That question is the earthquake. The return shock is the aftershock. People see your passport and assume you came back the same person. But passports track borders, not evolution. You can return to the United States. You can return to your city. You can return to your family. But you can't return to your old self. That version expired. Somewhere at a bus stop, or in a kitchen, or on a train, or in a place where you laughed like a local for the first time. You didn't just travel, you traded versions of yourself. And on the way home, you realize the return ticket doesn't take you back to who you were. There's no answer in this. There's no tidy conclusion. There's no step by step blueprint for a reverse culture shock and identity dislocation. Because this isn't a problem to solve, it's a transformation to acknowledge. You don't go back, you don't start over, you don't adjust. You learn to live with the echo of who you were, the echo of who you became, the echo of where you left yourself. And maybe that's what nobody warned you about. That the hardest part of leaving the US is returning to it.